Music President Trump and his team have said that they are putting blockchain rails into the US's banking system. I will make the case that I think Ripple and XRP will be very important to the new infrastructure in the future. This is the study. To really show you where I think this is going, let me start with two things Trump has said about this subject. Please like the video and leave a review if it helps you in any way. That does really help us meet more wonderful people like you. Let's begin here. A lot of people in the US don't know that the technical foundation of the banking system is decades, if not decades, out of date. You know, Paul and others are working to fix things, but charges and transfers cost a lot and can take days or even weeks to clear. With this plan, the whole old system can be brought into the 21st century by using the latest cryptography technology. That's what we were saying 2 years after I met you for the first time. The Genius Act gives banks, businesses, and financial institutions a way to issue crypto assets that are backed one for one with real US dollars, treasury bills, and other cash equivalents. This really strengthens the dollar and gives it a lot of attention. So, here's a clip of Trump talking about improving America's financial system. Pay close attention. Please pay attention to an executive order that has to do with government funds. In the past, I think checks issued by the Treasury. It looks like something like boom. The US has officially passed a bill to replace FedNow with a next-gen payment system powered by XRP. How long did it take the federal government to build FedNow? How long would it take the US government to build a new system on top of Fed to replace Fed? I'll answer all of those questions right after this. It's 10 times more likely that cash payments will be stolen than internet ones. In order to cut down on waste, fraud, and abuse in the government, this executive order will require the Treasury Department to update its payment system so that electronic methods of payment are used instead of paper checks whenever possible. This is something that we've been working on in many areas of the government under your leadership. Most of it has to do with updating tools and methods, and I think Scott, who is going to be a great Secretary of the Budget, wanted it done. Okay. The Trump government is also looking into big changes that could be made to the US payment system. They are interested in blockchain-based payment systems as possible replacements or big improvements to current rails like FedNow. Even though the Federal Reserve will still be around in 2025, official statements and policy proposals from the administration and congressional allies suggest that a move to blockchain technology, possibly including a US government-backed distributed ledger platform, is being thought about as a way to speed up, protect, and make domestic transfers more clear. Today, I'd like to learn a little more about FedNow. How long did it take to make FedNow? That was meant to be the new system in America. It's not blockchain. All of these banks are linked to the Federal Reserve, which moves money between them. One payment only costs 20 cents and is processed right away, but it is all done in one place. Let me help you with this. The US planned and built FedNow over a period of several years. The Federal Reserve said it would build the system in 2019, started test programs with more than 100 institutions in early 2021, and the service went live in July 2023. It had been talked about for a few years that faster payments would be possible. Remember that this goes all the way back to 2017 when Ripple was part of the task group to make payments faster. So the whole process of creation took about 4 to 6 years. FedNow really is a way to pay right away. It works 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and lets you make payments in real time that settle in seconds. But, it's not blockchain. Based on what the Trump administration has been saying, we think they are going to try to replace the Fed with blockchain lines. Another thing I want to talk about is that the US has passed a law against CBDCs. This means that the US government couldn't make their own CBDC. To make a digital dollar, they would have to work with a private company like Ripple, which is getting a national banking charter. You do begin to question whether or not everything is linked. Let me tell you some more things. U.S. law and policy say that the federal government can't use the Federal Reserve to directly start a central bank digital currency or digital dollar. This is because of clear legal and executive restrictions. So let's talk about the problems with the law. You may know that the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act stops the Federal Reserve from creating any kind of digital dollar, not just one through middlemen, but also without specific laws or approval from Congress. So even if they did it through a private company like Ripple, they would need to get Congress to agree to it first. The truth is, though, that they might be able to make this happen if they really wanted to. This stance is really supported by President Trump's executive orders and the whole regulatory framework. This is especially true when it comes to bringing up the privacy and spying issues that come with a government-issued programmable money system. Yes, it does talk about supporting digital dollars in the private sector instead. As a result, the US no longer supports a government-run answer. Instead, it supports stablecoins in the private sector that are tied to the US dollar. These might be put out by businesses like Ripple and Circle. When we look at how these companies work together across the Atlantic, it's pretty interesting. A few weeks ago, the US and UK did meet, and at that meeting, this is 𝗙𝗶, by the way. I showed you this in a different movie, but I wanted to tie everything together here, especially since it's the same time as President Trump's trip to the UK last week. A roundtable discussion took place in Downing Street with the UK Chancellor Rachel Reeves, the US Secretary of Treasury, Scott Basson, whom Trump mentioned at the end of his clip, and leaders from several major US and UK financial and crypto companies. It was an honor to be there. I think there is a great chance for the US and UK to work together more closely on digital assets. This partnership could really become a model for how countries in our business can work together. Being based in the US and having a big presence in the UK, Ripple is in a great position to use its strong transatlantic footprint to support our goal of becoming a leading digital asset innovation hub. This will help drive US-UK tech innovation and collaboration even more.